people to come and pick us up. We got out of Omaha right on schedule in 3 hours on our flight, an American 727 to Los Angeles. Jack and Dorothy Storick were on the airplane with us, so it was kind of nice to have somebody along that we knew. They were going to Los Angeles on a business vacation with another couple. When we got into Los Angeles, Doc's friend, Neil Tothill, I think was his name, picked us all up in his van. It's like a big laundry delivery truck. And we all piled in and went out to his apartment and changed our clothes, and he had a picnic lunch all ready, set out on the table and everything in boxes to take with us. Went out to the beach, and it was chilly. I think it was like 72 degrees. But when we got to the beach, for some reason, I don't know, it did not seem that cold. The kids just all ran straight to the ocean and jumped in and really had a good time. They were body surfing and stuff. We sat around on the beach and drank beer and chit-chatted and stuff, and then we got the picnic lunch ready, which when they said picnic lunch, we kind of expected that it would be hot dogs or something, but he had real nice T-bone steaks, big thing of beans with a little Bunsen burner to get them warm, and potato chips, and then those like Hostess pies and stuff for the kids, and of course the kids all had pop and stuff too. Cooked the steaks out over the grill, and oh boy, it really hit the spot. So then we all piled back in the van again and went back to his house. The kids all took showers and stuff to get the seawater off their skin so they wouldn't itch all the way. It was really a riot in his apartment with 23 people in a 2-bedroom small California apartment, but it all worked out great. The kids got their showers taken and everything, and we ran down and used the laundry facilities and got all their towels and clothes and stuff dry so they didn't have to carry wet clothes in their duffel bags. And we went back to the airport. When we got back to the airport, there seemed to be a little bit of confusion as to how we were going. When we had left to go out to Neil's house, why, a man had met us and said everything was all taken care of, and we were to go on the Pan American 747 flight 811 at 8:13. When we got there and Doc finally got through to the line, why, they had split us up, 10 on one flight and then 12 on a 10:30 flight that night. Well, I don't know how he kept his cool, but he went downstairs and he got everything all straightened around, so we were back as we were supposed to. And as it was, we all got off on the plane like we were supposed to. Because of the new jetways that they've got now, I never did get a picture of that plane. I have never seen one close up before, just pictures and stuff, but they are so huge. I've never seen anything that big. It's unbelievable that it could get in the air. There were 430 passengers. The front section of it was first class, and there were probably not more than 30, maybe 40 people in the first class section. Then we were in the next section, which was called the Clipper section. And then from on behind us, then there was 2 great big huge sections. I suppose it was coach. Behind that, there were up between the first class section and Clipper where we were, then there's a spiral staircase that goes upstairs to the lounge, which is to be used by first class passengers only. And it is just a lounge. It looks like a cocktail lounge or something. It has tables and stuff all sitting around. And then up from that is the cockpit where the pilot and everybody is. Each section has 2 aisles. There's 3 people on the right side, an aisle, 4 crossed down the center, and then another aisle and 3 more. So you can really get up and walk around, and there's really an unbelievable amount of room, leg space, and so forth. When we got to Hawaii, it was night. It must have been, I don't remember what time. Well, it must have been 1:30. That would be Los Angeles time. And then 2 more hours back. So that would put it like 11:30 at night. I think that's what it was. I don't know, the time's so confusing when we got in there. Anyway, when a lot of the passengers got off in Hawaii, and after they had left, why then they said the kids could go upstairs and check out the lounge and look around, and so we went up, and I went up with Clark and Terry Fisher and Brian, and I think AJ was the other one up there. And they went in and talked to the pilot, and he was real nice. I guess they don't normally let people up there anymore. They used to let kids, but I've heard since then that they don't let people up there. But the guy was really nice, and he was explaining the different things to the kids, and it's just a mass of controls. Since we were going to be there for so long, we finally decided we might as well get off the plane. So we all made sure we had our boarding passes and went off and went into the Hawaii airport. It's a new airport since we were there. It's really very nice. It's, I guess, like all airports, a lot of little shops and that kind of stuff. But I made a big purchase of a postcard, which I sent home. Got back on the airplane. We thought maybe we'd lose a few passengers, but boy, we sure didn't. It filled up in Hawaii just almost as full as it was going from LA to Hawaii. Most of the people seem to be going to down into the South Pacific or into Australia. There's a lot of Australians on the aircraft. It was then 5 hours from Hawaii to the Fiji Islands, and almost everybody slept quite a bit or tried to sleep on the way down there. It was dark. Well, from the time that we left Los Angeles all the way in, really. And when we got to Fiji, everybody got off the plane again and walked around. They had what they called a little holding area and then gift shops. They really had a lot of neat stuff. They had like wood carved masks and stuff, things that you would think of, well, from the Pacific. I got a couple more postcards and sent them. That was my big purchase for there. Then we kind of went in and combed our hair and brushed our teeth and put a little foo-foo juice on us because we were all getting a little ripe by that time. We boarded again and set our clocks back again 2 hours. He says 4 hours and 10 minutes to Sydney. We were supposed to go to Auckland, New Zealand, but maybe, I guess because of the difference in the flights, because we were supposed to take the DC-10 and now we're on this, that we're not going to Auckland. After we left Fiji, we had breakfast, a really good meal. We had scrambled eggs and sausage and fresh pineapple and juice and cereal. We still haven't seen the ocean. It's been dark ever since we left. And we're up so high, all you can see is clouds. You can't even see the ocean, so the kids haven't even got to see that yet. We were right on schedule coming into Sydney. We got here about 8 o'clock in the morning, a little bit after, I can't remember the exact time. They told us to have all of our papers and so forth ready when we got off the plane, and they gave us things to declare to go through customs. The only thing that I had to declare it said tobacco over 250 milligrams, which would be a carton. So being honest, I put it on, and so when we went through, I was the only one that had to go through where the little flashing light was and go see that little man. He just looked at it and said, "That's okay, go right on through." After we got through, the people were there to meet us, to take us to where we were all going. We kind of fiddled around in the airport, and they had a money exchange there, so most of us all exchanged money. For $100 American money, we got $88.41. I don't think they realized how much luggage and so forth we were going to have. We poked, shoved, and got all of our bodies finally into one minivan. The boys went in there, and then 2 cars, and we finally had to take a taxi. The car I rode in holds 4 people. my suitcase took up the whole trunk, and he had a heck of a time getting the suitcase in there. It's an English-made car, and the name of the car is Mini, M-I-N-I. This guy brought us out to our motel. I rode with Rosemary Santoni and her daughter, and I and this man in the car. And it was 19 miles to our hotel. They drive on the right side of the road, which I did not realize that they do here. And so this is really different. When you go around curves and stuff, you swear to God somebody's going to come run right into you. But the scenery is just beautiful. It's supposed to be winter here, but it's certainly nothing like we expected. This is their first month of winter, but everything is still green. Flowers, just unbelievable flowers. It's so much like Hawaii, or the only place I've ever been to compare it to. Flowers in bloom, palm trees right next to pine trees. That just blows my mind. I did not know what the vegetation here was going to be. But on some of the trees, the leaves are beginning to fall. So the weather is really comparable to our September, and it's just gorgeous. When we finally got to the motel, this is about an hour's drive to the name of this motel. It's called the Carousel. We went in to check in, and the lady insisted that we pay in advance, which is, I guess, highly unusual for here. But anyway, after much confusion, Judy and I are sharing a room, and for 4 days it's $96, which isn't really too bad. So after I finally spent some of my Australian money, I got the key to my room and came in. Well, I guess for $96 for 4 days, you kind of really get what you pay for. It's certainly not the Ritz, but it's not that terribly bad, I guess. The bed seems to be clean, and the rest of it isn't too bad. We've got one double bed, a table, a luggage rack, 2 chairs, small refrigerator, a hot plate, and a little kitchenette sink type thing with drawers and a little cupboard up above, and a coffee pot with silverware and service for just exactly 2. And we have a little room with a mirror at one end and a sink at the other end. The hot water is on one side of the sink and the cold water is on the other side of the sink. And then we have the toilet, which goes off to the other side, and they call it toilet here. Don't say bathroom, because or restroom, they don't know what you mean. You gotta say toilet. And then a little shower. Right out in front of our room, there's great big camellia bushes, which are in full bloom. There's a pool here out in front too, which is a nice sized pool, but it looks like it's only about 3 feet deep. And then they've got a lot of flowers and great big huge rubber tree out in front. We don't get washcloths. They provide towels, but no washcloths. Certainly glad I brought my own. Judy wasn't feeling well. She had quite a ride, I guess, from the airport with this lady. It's very, very, very spread out and quite hilly from the way that we came. They're like kind of like mountain roads with high trees and rock and stuff up on the sides. So she got a little ill driving. So she was laying down trying to take a nap. I came in and showered, and then I laid down for a little bit and tried to sleep, but I couldn't relax. So Chris and Rosemary and Margene and I decided we'd go outside and catch a bus and go someplace and try to find some lunch. We just got up here to the corner and we're trying to decide how to get across the street to go in the right direction that we wanted to go, and a car came by with, my goodness, look, there's a Gladiator driving that car. Well, it was Brian sitting in the left side of the car. It was Brian and Clark and the man that they were staying with. His name is Brian Ty. He thought the boys looked awfully tired, so he was going to take them back to his house, and then they wanted to go to the beach. So after we talked to him, he said, well, he'd just call his wife and we could go out to his house too, and she could prepare us some lunch. So he called, and we jumped in his car then, which was another, not too long of a ride, maybe a half hour or so, up to his house. I met his wife, Judy. They have a really lovely, lovely home. It's got a pool, swimming pool in the back. Brick, like most of the houses are here. They have a green roof. I guess a few years ago they passed an ordinance that you can only now have one red roof in a block, because Sydney was getting to be known as the city of red roofs, because as we flew in, everything was red. But now they have this new ordinance. These people do have a green roof, and the roofs are made of tile. They've got a steep, steep, steep driveway. I don't know how in the world they ever get down in it to park the car underneath the garage. Most houses do not have basements. Some will, but very, very few of them. They have some like 2-level houses, but most of them are just the one floor. This is a lovely, lovely home, and the lady was really nice. She'd fix sandwiches, which she called toasties. She took a piece of bread, 2 pieces of bread, buttered them, and put very, very thin slices of meat and tomato on them, and then stuck them in the broiler and toasted them. They were really good and hit the spot. And then she served tea. You get tea black or white, and they seem to all be real big on their tea. You have tea quite often. You have it in the afternoon, and then you also have it in the evening. After we got done with our sandwiches, why, the boys really wanted to go to the beach, so I said, well, I'd go on out to the beach with them. So Margene, and she was going to go too. So finally Chris and Rosemary decided they'd go too, so we all went to the beach. Went to this really neat beach about 5 minutes from their house. There's a golf course that goes around the side of it, which would really blow Gail's mind. It's really nice. And then it's kind of a lot of rocks up on top, and then Brian said, no, you can't go down here, you gotta go clear down to this end. So we walked a little ways, and there was a great big huge sand slide. And he said the only way to get to the beach is to start at the top and run like crazy. So we did, and the sand was kind of like reddish. So anyway, after we ran down this real steep hill, we got to the beach, and the kids rolled up their pant legs and went out to look for sand crabs and look around. There's a lot of rock on the base of the beach, flat, smooth rock, and then also like big boulders clear back on the side, but this was only for a small stretch. And I can't remember the name of this beach. I think it was Palm, but I'm not too sure. Anyway, we stayed there for a while. Walked around and picked up some shells. Shells are just everywhere, all sorts of them. He had to get back to pick up his son at a basketball game, so we finally got the kids, after much yelling at them to come. They didn't want to leave. They wanted to stay at the beach, I think, all afternoon. Came back to the motel, and Margene and Rosemary went upstairs, and Judy was out here, so she and I decided to go for a little walk. Our little walk was about a mile, and everything is closed here. Everything closes at noon on Saturday and doesn't open again until Monday morning. But we walked down, and we did find a little deli, which we picked up some instant coffee, and she got some fruit and some orange juice and stuff for the kids. Before we left, they had brought back some of the kids to rest because they were really tired, and the people that they were going to stay with weren't going to pick them up until a little bit later. So Doc brought them back so they could rest. They call it billet assignments. That's B-I-L-L-E-T. So Jay and Joel were in our room. After we got back from our little walk, I decided to lay down and rest for a little bit. But but I rested till about 2:45 a.m.
Playing tennis with John Newcomb. She spent the night playing tennis. Well, Joan reckons she's got to be the loser of the day. Hello, Sylvia?
Yes.
Hey, I was wondering what you're doing from Monday to Sunday next week.
I'm expecting bronchitis, Neville.
I thought we could have lunch or maybe dinner at the Black Stump restaurant. Delicious steak, booming music, holding hands, and who knows? Oh, well, I feel better soon.
Neville, I can put up the bronchitis. Neville, oh, please talk to me.
Never say no to a Black Stump invitation. Just do it again.
Safety factors of the DC-10 jetliners legislation which gives Attorney General, at the moment Attorney General Frank Walker, the right to deny courts access to government information. Mr. Isaacs says the legislation should be withdrawn because of its dangerous implications of Watergate and covering up. The former judge has condemned Mr. Walker's suggestion that no one can rely on the discretion of Australian courts to treat with delicacy claims for Crown privilege, and he believes Premier Rann should dissociate himself from Mr. Walker's, quote, unwarranted slur on the integrity of the Australian judiciary. The legislation was rushed through Parliament on its last sitting day in April on grounds that Mr. Isaacs now says were quite wrong.
Well, how'd you enjoy that? I thought maybe I'd just tape a little bit of the morning news for you so maybe you could kind of hear what the Australian people sound like and what their radio is. That station that I had that day was really funny because it was just like listening to KFAB. They kept coming and telling all these goofy jokes. I don't know if I got the one recorded or not about the unions. What do you do when your nose goes on strike? You picket. That's quite a joke around here because somebody is striking all the time. I guess somebody or another will be on strike all the time, and but nobody really pays too much attention to it. That is, unless it's like a rail strike or something that they had just as we got here, and that just got over on Tuesday morning. It doesn't get light here at this time of the year until about 7 a.m. and then it gets dark again at about 5. I think yesterday it wasn't either yesterday. I think he said either between the 21st and 23rd will be the shortest day of the year. On Sunday I woke up again bright and early at 5:30. Of course, this is after being up a couple of times during the night. I sure hope I don't do this when I get home. I'm going to be awfully, awfully tired. They came and picked us up because their boys were playing. The club that we're with here is Manly, and they were playing basketball in the state tournament for a championship. They've already won to go to the national games in September. That'll be in Queensland. And this lady, Mary Greenberg, she's the one that's been taking care of us here. She could only take 4 in her car, so Judy, Doc, and Jerry went with her, and then Bob, Jim, and I waited for another car. I ordered my breakfast, which I guess we were supposed to order the night before, but nobody seemed to remember to tell us. So we came over to our room and we sat here and had coffee. Before my breakfast got here, Mike Schaefer, or his name isn't Mike, that's his son's name, Colin Schaefer, something like that, picked us up, and then we drove over to the gym. Everything is really spread out, so it took us like about an hour to get there. All the kids were there, and it just cracked me up. I walked in, and here's this great big huge gym with 2 basketball courts, and walked in, and there stands Clark playing a pinball machine. Boys really feel right at home here. I hadn't had anything to eat since I got here, so, well, we had that one sandwich, I guess, over to Mrs. Ty's house, but that was it. And so we went in and got I got a sandwich, a ham sandwich, and some chips and a cup of orange juice, and got some for Clark too. Then we watched their boys play the game at 10:30, which they won. And then Chris Santoni and I walked over to watch netball. This is the game here that their girls play. And there was this great big field, and it had about 40 courts, and everybody and their dog was out there. There was people sitting on the sidelines. They bring a picnic lunch and baby carriages, just like a picnic at home, but everybody is out there with everything. They come to spend the whole day. We watched it for a while, and boy, is it ever a dull, slow sport. Nobody yells, no enthusiasm at all, and there was girls there from ages 7 to 40, it looked like. We walked back again. That's not anything you want to sit and watch for too long. There's 2 great big soccer fields out in front of the gym, so we walk back across them. They had started up a grill outside that some ladies had, and so we had a sandwich out there. On the grill they were frying hamburgers and sausages and onions. Mary came up behind me and said, "Now, do you know what you're getting when you're ordering a sausage?" She said, it's not a pork sausage, they're made out of lamb and beef. So I was really still hungry, so I said, well, I'll have one of each. So I ordered a hamburger and a sausage. The sausage was served on a roll,